Let's dive right into this explainer, shall we? If you've been looking around at the state of the world today, the conflicts, the wild environmental chaos, the massive societal shifts, and wondering, what on earth does this all mean? Well, you are absolutely not alone. Today we're unpacking the Bhavishya Malika. It's a collection of ancient texts that claims to map out exactly where humanity stands at this literal very moment.
So, are we living at the end of an era or the dawn of a completely new one? According to these 600-year-old prophecies, humanity is currently standing on a super turbulent bridge right between two worlds. We aren't just facing a bunch of random crises, right? The text proposes we're staring down massive, impending global shifts that mark the death of one age and the birth of another. It's basically asking us to zoom way out, past the daily news cycle, and look at a much grander cosmic timeline.
Which brings us to the Wheel of Time. To truly grasp these predicted shifts, we've got to look at how this tradition views time itself.
In the tradition of Sanatana Dharma, history isn't just a straight line. It's actually a turning wheel, known as the Yuga chakra. The cosmic timeline gets divided up into 4 main eras, or Yugas, and each one is marked by a progressive decline in righteousness. It kicks off with the Satya Yuga, this beautiful golden age of truth and purity. But as the wheel turns through the Treta and Dwapara Yugas, those core pillars of Dharma, or righteousness, really start to crumble. And that finally drops us into the Kali Yuga, an age heavily defined by materialism, strife, and just overall moral confusion.
Now, here is where the urgency of the Bhavishya Malika really hits you. Traditionally, ancient texts state that the Kali Yuga is supposed to last for a whopping 432,000 years. But the Malika claims something pretty startling. It says that human sins and moral decay have severely condensed this dark era down to just 5,000 years. And get this, because we are already past that 5,000-year mark, the text insists that the Kali Yuga has actually already ended.
So who actually made these extraordinary predictions? They were recorded in Odisha, India, by the Panchasakha. These were 5 revered sages who, according to tradition, wrote under direct divine instruction. And their goal wasn't to just stir up panic. It was to safely guide humanity through the terrifying transition they absolutely knew was coming our way.
Let's transition into the signs of an ending age and look at exactly how the text describes a world approaching its cosmic expiration date.
What's truly fascinating here is just how incredibly specific these symptoms of a dying age actually are. The prophecy lists numerous societal and environmental red flags. On a human level, it talks about the total collapse of the family structure, children abandoning their elders, a complete breakdown of marital fidelity, stuff like that. But it also points to bizarre anomalies in nature. We're talking mango and neem trees blooming totally out of season, or cuckoos singing in the dead of midnight. The text frames these not as weird coincidences, but as the earth literally reacting to heavy moral decay.
And it doesn't stop there. It warns of deep spiritual corruption. The text describes a time when places of worship will suffer extreme vandalism, literally to the point where sacred idols are stolen just for profit. It also predicts a massive rise in false, hypocritical spiritual leaders. Gurus who completely abandon the Vedic principles of Dharma, exploiting their followers for wealth and power while promoting intoxication and total superstition.
All of these intense signs build toward the transitional era. This is what the text calls the Sangam Yuga, that highly volatile twilight period we are supposedly living in right now.
So, we're currently navigating this wild gap between two worlds, and the text draws a really stark contrast here. On one hand, we're leaving behind the Kali Yuga, an era marked by immense conflict, rampant new diseases, and a desperate reliance on medicine just to survive. On the other hand, we're moving toward the Satya Yuga, where those 4 pillars of truth, kindness, cleanliness, and forgiveness are fully restored. But here's the catch. Getting there requires passing through a seriously turbulent purification process.
To prove this transition has officially kicked off, the text gives us some incredibly specific geographic omens. One of the most famous is an anomaly at the Sri Jagannath temple in Puri. The prophecy specifically states that a massive stone would fall from the temple, and an owl would perch upon it right in the middle of the day. And while believers and scholars of the Malika are quick to point out that these highly unusual events have actually already happened recently, acting like a cosmic starting gun for the global shifts to come.
And that brings us to the real core of this whole explainer, the impending global shifts. The Bhavishya Malika doesn't just speak in vague spiritual metaphors.
It details massive, impending global shifts and physical transformations that will literally rock the planet. The text warns of a grueling period of trials, predicting the outbreak of World War III, which leads to extreme shortages of food grains and widespread famine. But the environmental shifts? They are just as severe. The prophecy anticipates unprecedented cyclones, massive tsunamis, devastating earthquakes, and the sudden awakening of dormant volcanoes. On top of all that physical destruction, it warns of a complete failure of our modern digital technologies and communication systems. Imagine that, throwing our entire tech-dependent society completely into the dark. Now, if you're wondering about the timeline for these massive transformations, the text provides a very specific astrological trigger. It states that when the planet Saturn, or Shani, enters the Pisces moon sign in the year 2025, that specific planetary alignment will act as the catalyst for these accelerating global disasters. Yes, 2025. It's literally right around the corner.
Perhaps the most cinematic and honestly terrifying of all these impending global shifts is a predicted period of 7 days and nights of complete darkness. It claims the current sun and moon won't even be visible, plunging the Earth into a literal and spiritual blackout. This is described as the ultimate cosmic reset, basically wiping the slate clean before new celestial bodies and a totally new physical reality are established for the coming age.
But moving into the dawn of the Golden Age, as intense as those global shifts sound, the Bhavishya Malika is not ultimately a text of despair.
It is actually a sacred bridge leading to a profound spiritual dawn. According to the prophecy, whenever humanity is teetering on the brink of total moral collapse, the divine intervenes. In the specific transitional age, it's predicted that Lord Kalki, the 10th and final avatar of Lord Mahavishnu, will incarnate. Depicted riding a white horse with a blazing sword, he isn't showing up to conquer in some political sense. He's coming to fiercely remove the heavy burden of sins from the earth, destroy the wicked, and protect true devotees from the surrounding global chaos.
And the text actually outlines a very clear path of spiritual preparation for folks navigating these shifts. It says that upon simply hearing these prophecies, dormant devotees across the world will awaken. They'll organize into 16 global spiritual groups or mandals, eventually uniting under an organization called the Sudharma Mahamahasangh. The timeline suggests that by the year 2032, this spiritual assimilation will be fully complete, leading righteous communities directly into the peace and stability of the new Satya Yuga.
Ultimately, the Bhavishya Malika serves as a mirror for all of us. It reminds us that while the massive global shifts we talked about, the wars, the failing tech, the environmental upheavals are happening outside of us, the real transition to a golden age begins inside the human heart. As we face this massive turning point in history, it leaves us all with one powerful question. When the darkness comes, will you be clinging to the materialism of the past, or will you be ready to walk the path of truth,